Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are talking about the NHL Awards, where Austin Matthews comes dressed up as like a reincarnated Gucci version of the Queen. What the hell? Like, what the hell is he? Like, look at this. He looks fat and weird and stupid. What is this stupid? Anyways, Austin Matthews looks weird showing up to the NHL Awards, and Nathan MacKinnon takes the grandest prizes of them all. And it's also hosted by a really, really lame, awkward, not funny comedian that could fall off a cliff, and I don't think anyone would care. Anyways, that was the NHL Awards, so let's talk about the actual, all of it together. So before we tackle this, what the hell is wrong with the NHL? We are like the most loyal, we're like the most consistent fans in the world, with like the fourth sport that's slowly getting drowned by other sports and just keeps going down and down in not down in popularity, but like scale of popularity compared to all the other sports of the world, even though it's been around like the longest time. And it's just like, oh my god. The NHL's a joke. The NHL's an absolute freaking joke, and I just don't get it. I don't understand how we deal with this every single year, from Fanatics to freaking BioSteel to all, like, it's just all such a joke. And so is this award show with this, like, what was that Kucherov joke? And I don't know, but that's not what matters. What we're talking about today is the actual awards that were presented and my thoughts on them. So, let's see here. The Hart and the Ted Lindsay, the MVP of the league, basically, where usually they're both awarded to the same guy because it's by the voters that the NHL sees as worthy of voting, like Elliot Friedman, because they know hockey, apparently. And then Ted Lindsay, which is voted by the Players Association, or is it the general managers? Someone that's better at probably figuring out who's the best at hockey. I can't remember off the top of my head right now because I'm an idiot. But anyways, Nathan MacKinnon takes the league MVP. He was second in points this year with 140, fourth in goals with 51, which is unreal. He breaks 50 for the first time in his career. And I gotta say, I'm very happy with this decision. I think this was the right choice, because the whole debate, like, people like were going after for Kucherov, saying that, because he really lifted his team into the playoffs. He was number one in points, and like the power play merchant he's so insanely lethal in the offensive zone. He's so good back there. He's like a 9% of like the whole Lightning's points come from him, which is crazy. But to me, he's like that. All of that is exactly also why I think Nathan MacKinnon wins, right? He does all those same things. He's 140 points, only 4 less than Kucherov. Like, he's getting the same points. He's getting more goals of 51. Like, he's all over them with the points, right? And but then it's all other zones too, right? It's the defensive zone. He also buries people, right? He's an unstoppable, like, warrior, right? He reminds me of, like, a Viking. Like, it's just, like, a rampaging dog that won't be stopped. That's what they call him, that, right? A dog. He's Nate Dogg, right? That's what everyone calls the guy. And to me, it's a different type of scenario, right? With McDavid. McDavid in the playoffs, I know he wins the Conn Smythe, which I'm a little bit iffy on, but look at how Nathan MacKinnon won the Stanley Cup compared to McDavid. Sure, McDavid could get all the points in the world, all the assists and whatever, right? But look at the way Nathan MacKinnon won it, right? Look at that one goal that he scored against St. Louis, right? St. Louis was like the only team that looked like they could stop the Colorado Avalanche the year that they won it, right? Looked like the only team that could slow them down, and they did. And in, Game 6, where it looked like the St. Louis Blues were going to win the game, they were going to make it go to 7 or something like that. I forget the complete scenario. Nathan MacKinnon goes end to end in an amazing goal and wins the game, scores it, I think ties it, which then leads to the Avalanche then scoring the next goal, winning the game, which then they go on to win the Stanley Cup. And it's just goals like that where it's like, sure, MacKinnon doesn't get freaking 34 assists or whatever in one playoff run, but he leads his team to victory. He pushes them. He does whatever it takes to crash that net, to hit the other player, to stick lift, to get in his own zone, to play hard against the other team, actually play with like a passion, right? Connor McDavid's insane, and I do believe he's the most talented player that has ever played in the NHL. That is my belief. But this season especially, Nathan MacKinnon was a different beast. If Nathan MacKinnon played against Connor McDavid in a series, McDavid would have had nothing. McDavid would have just tried to get the puck, and MacKinnon would have bullied him into the corner, get the puck and pass it, or make a sweet play up the boards, make some sort of play happen. And to me, MacKinnon winning it, absolutely. Kucherov, I would have said with my second place. Matthews had no right being in conversation for the Ted Lindsay in my eyes. His 69 goals is insane, and I guess does deserve a nod and maybe get a nod. And he does get the nomination, but no way does he win the Ted Lindsay just for scoring those goals. To me, it's just it's one note, right? And he's clearly not the best player in the NHL, right? No, I don't think anyone would claim that for any year so far that he's been playing, but even the year that he won, I would not say it. But anyways, that's whatever. So Ted Lindsay MVP going to Nathan MacKinnon, I'm good with that. The Calder Trophy, right? Winner goes to Connor Bedard, which is not a shock at all. Not just because I do believe he deserves it, but the NHL, after spending so much money, so much time marketing and advertising and just hyping up this boy for being who he is, being probably the next greatest player in the NHL, they had to give it to him. If he had any sort of claim, unless he was injured or he had a horrific season, if he was anywhere close to being in the top 5 of points, if he was in the top 3 of points, no matter what, I think they would have given it to him. If he had any sort of claim or debate, the NHL would give it to him, and they did. And he did deserve it. 61 points, led all rookies. 22 goals, led all rookies. I'm pretty sure he had number 1 in assists as well. And he was the star of the Blackhawks, right? He goes into one of the worst teams, and his mentor, Taylor Hall, that he was supposed to have and have the whole season, is injured very early on. He doesn't have him for the whole year, and he was even injured at one point too. So you imagine if you remove that injury, does it get to 70 points potentially? And then Bubble Bedard was unreal as well. All of it going into it, Bedard, he did his job. He was the star of the team that he was drafted to, the Blackhawks. And the NHL, after spending all the money and time to spend and advertise this boy, they had to give it to him. They have to. After being this is the guy. And now they can show it to us in past. He was he won the Calder Trophy. The NHL was right. He was the man. And that's what happened. Brock Faber and Luke Hughes, I think, definitely were good candidates for it as well. I think especially Faber. I think most people were definitely leaning towards Brock Faber. But to me, 47 points is insanely good for a defenseman, especially in their first year. Mo Seider won it with 51 points or something in the year. I definitely think he deserved it. But Brock Faber, he does very good in both ends of the ice. He's great in his own zone. He was number 1 in blocks for defensemen, rookie defenseman. So he's good in his own zone when it comes to that, but he just isn't. He wasn't that game changer, right? Connor Bedard was a threat when he was on the ice, right? The way he did dangle through people, he was already an all-star. And to me, Brock Faber, he wasn't that defenseman, even though he did so many good things right. Luke Hughes, too, a lot of points, but once again, just not really the D-man angle of things. And for the NHL, it's all about points, really. All about points and offense. And Mo Seider, the year he won it, he brought the offense, and he was great defensively. And to me, Brock Faber just didn't really rise to that occasion, and also just kind of being on Minnesota kind of lowers his reputation, I guess. But to me personally, I would have liked to have seen Logan Cooley get a nod for the Calder. I think he did the things Bedard did, but in a more a better two-way game. But once again, for the NHL, it's all about offense and points, and Cooley didn't bring that. He was great as a two-way player, great two-way player, but they just didn't. They don't see it that way. That's not how the NHL markets it. So Bedard gets it, not a surprise. And then the Norris, Quinn Hughes wins it with first points, and I don't know, I personally don't think Quinn Hughes was the best defenseman in the NHL. Was he the best defenseman at getting points? Was he the best offensive defenseman? Sure. Was he the best defenseman when a team needs a guy really in their own zone to stop a play or something like that? Is he good at that? Sure. Is he the best? No. And personally for me, out of the nominations, I would have gone with Roman Josi. And personally for me, My nominations, as much as I believe Cale Makar is the best defenseman and will go down as the very best defenseman of all time in the NHL, I don't think he needs to get a Norris vote every single year. He had an amazing season, especially for it was for what it was, and if you add in like the 5 games that he missed, he definitely could have been up there, maybe even have been number 1 in points potentially. But for me, my nominations would have been Hughes, just based off, like, number 1 in points. Like, you do have to give a nod to that. Roman Josi, because he was kind of better in both ends of the ice, which is what a defenseman is best for. And then I would have gone with Gustav Forsling. He was the best defensive defenseman in the NHL this year. Plus 56, which blows any of these guys out of the water. 39 points is definitely not nothing for a defenseman. For me, I really think, like, it is a shame that the NHL gives no nod when it comes to defense, ever. They give 0 nod to that for a defenseman, and I think that is nuts. And for me, I was one big advocate last year for when Erik Karlsson won it, because to me, breaking that 100 points is unreal for a defenseman. 6 times it's happened for a defenseman in the history of the NHL. I think the last time anyone did it, when he did it, was like in World War II or something like that, And that just goes to show you, like, the insane, like, record that he broke there. Unreal, right? And he did it looking dazzling, with amazing plays. But that was one standard season, right? Hughes, like, Josi, Makar, these defensemen getting, like, 90s of points. Like, that is, like, what happens with, like, the standard, like, good defenseman. And to me, it's just, it isn't what wins the day. Like, it's defenseman. It's the defensive guy. And look who wins the Stanley Cup. The Florida Panthers for having the better defensive team. And Forsling is the guy that wins the Stanley Cup. And he beats out Hughes, Josi, and Makar, who are all in the playoffs. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous that there's no mention ever. It has nothing to do with their defensive standout to me. And to me, if it was out of these nominations, I would have gone with Josi. And Hughes, good player, but not who I would pick. But then the Vezina Trophy, going to Connor Hellebuck. The NHL so desires to be the best goaltender in the NHL. I do not believe so. I am not the biggest fan of Connor Hellebuck. I think his playoff runs are very abysmal. I've never seen him ever as like that goaltender that really makes those crazy saves. You never see him on those crazy like the compilations on YouTube of like the craziest saves or something like that. He's never on there. And it's not to say he's a bad goalie. Clearly he's not a bad goalie. But this is the best goaltender, right? This is the MVP of goalies. And to me, when it comes to Bobrovsky and Demko being put up against him, if you remove one of these goalies from the team that they're on, which team suffers the biggest? And it's definitely not the Jets. I think if Connor Hellebuck was injured the whole year and they had Laurent Brossoit, they would have been just fine. With their stingy defense of like Morrissey and Dylan and DeMello and Pionk, like you have so many like good, like stay-at-home defensemen, stingy, they stay back, they play good hockey, they're not making those big risks or something that end up causing guys like Hughes and Makar, right? They have their strong-bodied, like, good defensemen back there, and they take a lot of they clean up a lot for Connor Hellebuck, right? And to me, Bobrovsky and Demko definitely suffer more on those teams and have such amazing seasons. Especially, I would say for the Canucks, I would have given it to Demko. I think Demko definitely was the biggest factor of any of these goalies. I mean, with Bobrovsky, they had Forsling, they had Barkov in front of him, Montour and Ekblad, and Kachuk's a great two-way guy as well. Like, they have a lot of good two-way guys that really slow down the game, are great defensively, but to me, Demko, with the defense of the Vancouver Canucks, like, sure, it was good, but it was not what the other two guys had to deal with. And I think Demko had to deal with the most out of any goaltender this year and, well, win the most. Not deal with the most. Clearly, that would have been like Mackenzie Blackwood or something of the Sharks. But to win as much as he did with what was in front of him, I think gets Demko the winner. But to me, this whole award show is just ridiculous. All of it is just a joke. Like, all of it down to freaking Austin Matthews' granny outfit and to the rest of these awards. Bedard, clearly, obviously, what they're going to pick. Hughes, it seemed obvious the whole year they were picking for him. And Connor Hellebuck. It just feels like they never can swerve us because it's who they've been building up to this whole time, right? They never shake it up. They never like whoa, like that guy came out of nowhere. It always feels like it's very obvious who they're gonna pick because it's all marketing. It's all marketing, and they try to build it up as if it's like, ooh, maybe there's potential, but no, it always ends up like this every year. Maybe there's like a little shake up, but never really. It is always the same, and it's kind of annoying. But I don't know. I guess I don't really disagree too much with them. I guess Bedard is fine. Hello Buck for, I guess, his numbers, I guess, whatever. But I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But that's all I gotta say. So thank you for watching this. If you made it this far, please, I'm begging you, please subscribe. Please. And until next time, too sweet. Have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.